everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to master your wearable pump, and then I'll talk about all of the different ways that I've used it and how it was really helpful for me and all my soapbox stuff at the end. So we'll go ahead and jump right into how to use it. So here it is. Of course, I believe you get two when you actually order it online. This is just one. I did get two. Previously, I might not have recommended getting two, but since I use it so much now, I do definitely recommend getting two if you have the choice. So full disclosure, I honestly have no idea how the other wearable pumps compare to this one. All I can say is that I'm super happy with this one, and so I'm going to show you how to use this one. There is some Miss Rachel on the background. I hope that is not distracting. So here's the actual, I think what we would refer to as the pump itself. This is not a button. I thought that was a button. And then there's just your power button, and then their plus and minus of the strength of the pump, and then the mode button, which changes the different modes. Honestly, you're just gonna sit there and you're just gonna try the different modes and see which one you prefer. I'll take it apart and we'll put it back together, because this was really tricky for me the first couple times I used it. So if you have this pump, definitely make sure to save this video so that you can have it the first couple of times that you take it apart and put it together, because you're going to need that the first couple of times until you get used to it. So again, I don't know the names of all the parts, but this is the part that actually goes on your chest, and I think it's called the flange. I don't know. And then here's the whole kind of internal thing, and it is really tightly nestled in there, obviously, so that it doesn't leak. So, and when I show you how to put it together, you'll see that. And then this part comes off the back. And then this duck bill, which I know the name of that actually, the duck bill comes off of this piece. So, let's talk about each piece one at a time. So this is actually going to hold the milk. There's a maximum amount that you can have in here. I've actually never exceeded that amount, and I do produce a pretty respectable amount of milk, but I also like to empty it a couple of times when I'm using it, just because I'm kind of neurotic about it potentially leaking and losing the milk. So when I'm using this, I keep a bottle nearby to empty it into. So here's the actual mechanism, and when you're wearing it, it's gonna be like this with like your breast in here, kind of. Wait a minute, is that right? Yes, it is. So your breast can be in here. So here is the part that goes actually on your skin, and so this is ultimately gonna go here. And then here is this piece that I don't know what it's called, but as you can see, another reason I like this is I found it was really easy to wash it and keep clean. So this piece looks like this. And so here's all of the pieces. And then here's how you put it together. So I start with this piece. This goes on the back. Here, just so you can see really good. This goes on the back. And then you want to seal it all the way around. And just remember, you want to keep your pump real clean, so make sure your hands are clean when you're doing all of this stuff. So that piece goes on the back. And then here is the duck bill. And you'll notice there's a little arrow. Hopefully you can see that little arrow. That arrow is going to point to this little arrow. So when you put that on, it goes like this, so that it's pointed like that way. So you want it to look like this. Then, now this is the part that's like a little fiddly, but once you get used to it, it's not so bad. So you've got this piece here that has these two round things on either side, and then in here, you've got these, so that's gonna go in there. So again, kind of tricky because you can't really line it up. You kind of gotta just smash it in there. So here, I'll just do it, kind of smash it in there. So that's in there now. And then up here, you just want to push that in all the way around. And now that's in. And then this is the last piece. And so here is the most important key to this pump, so that you don't have the leaking problem that I had. When it was leaking for me, it was leaking out the bottom here. So figure, I'm going to seal it up. And then you want that lined up this was opening up at some point when I was like putting it on or moving around or something. This part was opening up and the milk was leaking out the bottom, because remember, like your breast is going to be in there like this. And this is the bottom, so this was opening up and the milk was coming out of the bottom. So when you put the thing on, and if you're neurotic like me, you can check a couple of times to make sure that it hasn't opened up by just like reaching in your shirt and just making sure that this is shut. That for me prevented all of the leaking. And then obviously, just like with every other pump, you want to line yourself up so that you're pointed into there and that the milk is going in. And then, like I said, the milk goes in and then down that little widget and then out the duckbill. And the pump, of course, if that's not obvious, goes this way. So that, again, when your breast is in there, this is on top and this is on the bottom. So just one more time, you know, because I know we need it. I needed it anyway. We'll take it apart and put it back together. So this part comes out. This part comes out. This comes off. And this comes off. And then we'll put it back together. This part goes on. This part goes on, and there's no way to line this up. It just goes however. And then line up those little parentheses and kind of line this up as best you can and just kind of mush that in there. Like I said, this is the only part that's kind of a little bit fiddly. There we go. So push that in, make sure that's pushed in all the way around, and then line up the little divots. And then that goes on there. Oh, we've got company. Okay. All right, so the next thing I'll talk about with the pump is what I found is just some tips and tricks for using it. Number one, the bra really matters what bra you're using with. So with this pump, I do not use a pumping bra. Again, when you have your little time where you're tinkering with this and figuring out the best way to make it work for you, also really consider the bra. You do want it to be very firmly attached to you, but you do not want it to be too tight because it's going to inhibit the flow of your milk. But you do want it to be on there firmly so that it doesn't leak. My personal favorite bra to use the pump with is also just my favorite bra in general. It's a Shaper Mint compression bra. So I do feel comfortable like recommending that one. And then I also kind of live in sports bras. I really like sports bras. So if you have a nice snug fitting nursing bra, or excuse me, sports bra, I would recommend one of those. Not your more looser bras, and definitely not any sort of like padded or push-up bra. You're probably not gonna really like that. Also, if I didn't already mention it, for me, I found that only wearing one of the pumps, or only wearing it on one side at a time, was really great for me. So that's what I would recommend, is just wearing it on one side at a time, and then what you can and can't do with it. So I have found that I can cook dinner when I'm wearing it. I can walk around the house. I can go to the bathroom. I can go up and down the stairs. I can get myself a drink. I can work on the computer, and I can hold the baby on the opposite side, which was really important to me because with the other pump, I wasn't able to hold my baby at the same time, and that was really frustrating for me. What you can't do. So you really can't lean over more than at like a 90-degree angle. So laundry is kind of tricky. It depends obviously on your washer and dryer. I was able to move clothes from the washer into the dryer, but I was not able to take clothes out of the dryer. because it was just me bending over for too long, whereas going from like the washer to the dryer, you're kind of just like chucking them in there. So I was able to do that. If the baby or some other object that you're reaching for is on the ground and you're standing, that you shouldn't do that. I've done that once or twice and the milk spills out the top, and then it kind of like gets everywhere. So I wouldn't recommend bending over to pick something up off of the ground. However, if you're just kind of leaning over to, you know, grab something off the counter or the table or something, that's totally fine in my experience. And then also whenever I'm like kind of leaning over and reaching for something, I'll hold it on myself with one hand while I'm reaching with the other hand, just, you know, for my own kind of sanity, that I don't want to feel like it's like gonna like leak or get loose or fall, or that this thing is gonna like loosen up. And then another tip for this is when I empty it or like pour the milk out when I'm using it or when I'm done using it, I actually pour it out from the bottom. I just prefer that. So I'll be wearing it and then it'll start to get full, and then I'll lift it out of my shirt, just lift up the bottom really carefully, pour it into whatever bottle or storage thing, and then go like this. Make sure it's sealed up really good, really good, and then slide it back into my shirt. I recommend doing that if you're like me and you're neurotic about it potentially like starting to leak or it coming out. And then as far as washing it, when you wash this, I recommend taking it all the way apart, letting it dry all the way apart, and then when it's completely dry, go ahead and put it all the way back together so that when you do go to use it, it's all put back together. So I think that's all of my tips and advice on how to use this wearable pump just in time because someone needs some attention. But if I think of anything else, I'll go ahead and leave it in the comments. And then if you're still watching, I hope you'll consider subscribing if this was helpful for you. I'll definitely have more tips and advice on all these kind of things. So I did want to make this video to talk about my experience with pumping because I really wasn't ready for how difficult it was going to be for me personally, and I wish that I had kind of had more information on it going into it. So I guess I'll just kind of start back at the beginning. So when I first got pregnant or whatever, like I always knew that I planned on breastfeeding my baby and that I wasn't planning on giving my babies any formula. It wasn't because I had anything against formula. It was just like I knew that my mom had breastfed us and I felt like that was just like the right thing to do. Since then, I've found out a lot of interesting information about the benefits of breastfeeding, so I'm really glad that that was the decision that I made. So if that's not your decision, I definitely don't judge you. Everyone has to do what's right for them. But for me, I felt like that was definitely what I was going to do, no matter what. So when it got difficult, yes, it was difficult, but since I was so committed to it, I was committed to finding a way to make it work for me. So that's what I did. So after giving birth, being in the hospital, they bless you. They bring you a breast pump for you to use if you don't already have one. And since my baby was born 6 weeks early, I wasn't really ready and I didn't have my breast pump yet. So spoiler alert, I did end up getting something like 4 or 5 or 6 different pumps from when she was born up until now, so I have used quite a few of them. But anyway, they brought it in my hospital room and I was like, okay, time to pump. And oh my god, so when you pump after giving birth, it causes your uterus to contract and like shrink back up, which is a good thing. However, I was not prepared at all for how painful it was. Because I had an epidural, it to me was more painful than giving birth. It was like so painful that I immediately broke into a sweat on like my forehead and my body started sweating. I was like clenching my hands, like clenching the bed next to me, and like heavy breathing and hunched over. And that was how it was for the first, I think, if I remember right, like day and a half after giving birth. It was that painful. And then when my quote unquote like milk came in, as they say, that was extremely painful as well. And I thought that I had like a clog or mastitis. So I was like on Google trying to figure out, you know, what was wrong with me, not realizing that it was actually just my milk coming in. My breasts got really large and really hard, and they were really hot to the touch. They were really warm to the touch, and pumping was painful. So everything was just painful and uncomfortable, and it was really difficult. So the first pump that I had was not that expensive. It might have been like 80 or 90 bucks. I did have to buy it out of pocket because my insurance company was like goofing around and being aggravating to me. So I was like, you know what, 80, 90 bucks, I'm just gonna buy it myself. You know, on Amazon, it'll be here tomorrow. It's probably the same or similar one to what a lot of people have. I'll put a picture on the screen so that you can see. And I'm not sure if it was because of my initial really painful experience with pumping, but I really hated pumping a lot. And my baby wasn't actually breastfeeding yet, and she didn't actually start breastfeeding until she was about 2 months old. So I was pumping all the time, and I hated it. It made me really like deeply angry and depressed and really sad. And I didn't really know why. I didn't know why it was having that effect on me. Sometimes I would sit and I would pump and I would cry because I was just so miserable and so unhappy. But again, I was like really committed to making sure that she got breast milk and that she didn't get formula. So I just kind of sucked it up. The parts were kind of tricky to clean. I didn't like washing or cleaning the parts. I didn't like sitting there with the breast pump because when it's on, you can't hold your baby like how I'm holding her right now. I would not have been able to hold her like this. So that was really difficult. You were kind of stuck in one spot. You can't really move. You can't really pick anything up. If you're sitting there and you decide that you need to go to the bathroom, or that you would like a drink, or you left your phone in the other room, or your phone battery is dying and you want to plug it in but you don't know where a charger is. Like one time I was sitting on the couch and I had my pump on, and all of a sudden there was like a furious banging on my front door, and I was home alone, just me and the baby, and I jumped up and the pump thing flew off of me and milk went everywhere and the hoses and the cords and all of that, and I was just, excuse you. So it was just a really miserable experience. So I got another pump in the mail for some reason. I didn't order it. They told me that my doctor ordered it for me, so I got that pump, and it's basically the exact same one that I already own, just a different color. And then when I finally got the one from my insurance company, I thought that it was going to be a wearable one, but it wasn't. It was the Baby Buddha. A lot of people really liked that one. I didn't care for it. The suction was not very strong, so I felt like I was just kind of sitting there forever, and it was taking a really long time. So I have that one. Don't use it. And then what finally made the difference for me and got me into a place where I wasn't completely miserable was hand pumping. So one night it occurred to me that, oh, like if I had a hand pump up here in the bedroom, if I needed to pump in the middle of the night, I wouldn't have to go get all the bottles and the tubes and the little actual pump thing and try to like maneuver it into my bra or whatever. Like I could just sit here and just pump by hand, and I thought that would be really convenient. So I actually got a hand pump from the hospital. So I went ahead and started using it. I loved it. I mean, I didn't enjoy it, right? But it was way better, way different than using a pump. And I wish that I could recommend that to like every woman on planet Earth, because those electric pumps, I think, make pumping a very miserable experience for a lot of women. A lot of women who didn't breastfeed told me that, and now I think it like makes me kind of sad, because if that was the thing that kind of kept them from breastfeeding, like there's other options, and I didn't know this. So anyway, the hand pump was top tier. Like it was the best, because if you're in the middle of pumping and all of a sudden you have to pee, you just put the thing down and you go to the bathroom. If you're in the middle of pumping and your baby starts crying and you want to pick them up, which would happen to me all the time, you just set the thing down and then you can pick up your baby and hold your baby and finish pumping in a couple of minutes. If you needed to get a drink, if there was a furious knock on the door that scares the daylights out of you, you just set it down and then go do what you were doing. So I'll put a picture, or I'll show my hand pump that I have that I really very rarely use anymore because of me using the wearable one now, but I just used it this morning actually, so I use it about still like once a week. So anyway, highly recommend the hand pump. As a side note, we use Tommy Tippy bottles, and Tommy Tippy makes a hand pump that goes right on the Tommy Tippy bottles. So of course I thought that that was so great, but that hand pump sucks. Like, it's awful. And I even had Tim try to help me like MacGyver it, and it still sucks and it's still awful. So anyway, if you think about buying that, don't. The reviews were terrible. I should never have bought it, but it was like 12 bucks, so I wanted to try it, so it was a waste of money. But anyway, so then I got this idea in my head and I was like, ooh, if I get me a wearable pump, I'll be free. I'll never have this problem again of, you're being so good. She's being so good. So I got this idea in my head. Okay, if I get this wearable pump, then I will not have any of these other problems. I will not be like tied to the couch or whatever spot I'm sitting in. I'll be able to walk around and cook dinner and do all this stuff that I want to do while still pumping. So I bought myself a wearable pump. Again, don't remember how much I spent on it. It might have been like $100, 120, 150, I don't remember. Thing came in the mail. I was like, yes, today is the day. I've got my wearable pump. All of my problems are solved. I'll never be sad again. The first time I went to use it, of course, like most people, went to YouTube. How do I use this thing? Couldn't really find any good videos on how to use it. So I was just like, okay, well, you know, I'm just gonna wing it and I'm gonna figure it out. And I put the thing on and I was like, okay, this doesn't feel like secure, but I'm just gonna trust this thing. And I'm sitting there or whatever, and I'm kind of like looking at it and trying to figure out, like, is it working? Is it working? And then all of a sudden I'm all wet and the milk had leaked all over me and I was super upset. It was like, first of all, I had to change all my clothes. Second of all that milk was wasted. And like, third of all, this dream that I had was completely crushed. So, oh man. So anyway, I'm excited to make this video because I really hope that it helps somebody out there, right? But anyway, so then after that, I decided, yes, we're making a video. So after that, I decided that, that was a waste. That was stupid. I'm not screwing around with that stupid thing anymore. And I was pretty happy with hand pumping, so I was fine. Fast forward to coming toward the end of my maternity leave and knowing that I was going to have to go back to work. I thought, you know, I spent all that money on that wearable pump and it was a waste of money. Like, I'm just gonna try it like a couple more times and I'm gonna figure it out because I think this is gonna be really convenient for me when I'm working. And so I literally set aside time to sit there and kind of like tinker with it, I guess, and like figure out how to use it so that when I started working again, I would be fully prepared and feel comfortable like using it and not have any issues. So that was a catalyst for me wanting to make this video and why it was like really important for me to make this video, because now that is the only way that I pump. I'm so happy with it. I can do what? I can do everything that I want and need to do with it. Yeah, this is your bunny. Okie dokie. All right, we're gonna pause. All right, I'm back. Someone needed a change of scenery, so she's over there playing now. So I sat there with my pump and I, just like I said, kind of tinkered with it. I figured out the most comfortable way to put on, which hopefully I remember to talk about that in the tutorial thing. And I figured out that it was actually only best to wear one at a time. Two was too bulky. I'm not sure if that's because of my personal anatomy or if that's for everyone. At first I thought it was a waste of time that I had two because I only ever used one at a time. But when I started using it more and that became my main way of pumping, I actually was really grateful that I had two. So there was that, and that the bra really mattered, and figuring out what I could and couldn't do when wearing it was a really big deal because I didn't want milk spilling out, didn't want to have to change my clothes, and all of that. So now I'm pretty happy. Like I definitely feel like I can achieve my goal of breastfeeding her for the first year of her life, and then that'll probably be just in time for baby number 2, which I'll be way more prepared for, and I'm really looking forward to that. So if you're still watching and you haven't subscribed, I really hope that you'll consider subscribing because I want to give back to the internet all of the good karma that I got and all the good mom advice that I got, and share the things that I learned and help other moms out there. We got to stick together. It's hard, but we can definitely do it. So thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you in my next video.